may be considered. Due to the public interest to ensure proper planning and development of properties within the overlay, the city is considering a 3-month temporary land use restriction to address major infrastructure and transportation needs along with development code modifications. The effective dates of the regulation being considered will be from July 31st, 2018 to October 31st, 2018, unless removed or amended by the City Council prior to the close of the effective dates. During the temporary land use period, the city will not be accepting new development plans or requests for zoning modifications for properties within the TOD overlay zone. Applicants submitted for review by the Planning Commission or City Council prior to the July 31st, 2018 will be reviewed and processed in accordance with all current zoning and development regulations. Following the conclusion of the effective date, new development applications will be accepted. With that being said, we would now open it up to public comment. As you do so, we'd ask you to state your name and for public record. If you wish to just write it down and make it a part of a public record, there are sheets in the back that you could do that, and it'll be associated with this meeting and the minutes associated. So, with that said, we'll now open it up to public comment.
Hi, I'm Cassie Allred, and I live on 2nd South, almost at the end. I would like to thank you for considering holding all construction, everything, till you figure out what's going on down there. We've already had a lot of problems with crime down there. If you are going to put as much in, I would recommend a satellite police station, because we've got a lot of problems, and I don't know if the city understands what they're getting into with what has been proposed to come. The other thing is the TOD. My property was put in the TOD against my wishes. Developers stood up and talked to everybody and said they needed as much property in as they could to get federal funding. I'm sorry, I feel like that is fraud against the federal government, and I want my property out of TOD. It was put in against my wishes. We don't want to be a part of it. Jess Green's property, his bottom piece, he got put in TOD because he asked. Now I'm asking to be removed. We want nothing to do with it. And I hope you will really take this in consideration, because I'm almost furious that I look and my property's all scheduled for business buildings. What gives anybody the right to decide what's going to be on my property? I own it. My family will own it after me. We have no interest in selling this, ever. It's a family farm. It is almost a centennial farm. So please, I would ask that you take us out of the TOD. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bear with me. I'm not very comfortable doing this, but I'm going to, because I feel so strongly about it. My name is Neil Allred, Cassie's husband, part owner of the property that she's talking about on the west end of the rail station. And I'd like to first applaud the city for slowing down on this thing and making sure that what you're doing, the decisions you're making about this TOD, is the right thing in the best interest of the city, because what you're planning on doing down there is going to affect a lot of lives for a lot of years, us included. With that in mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about the TOD. I don't fully understand how the city got talked into that type of development, but they did. And as long as the city and the people that own the property want to develop under the TOD, so be it. That's their right as a property owner. But we do not want to sell or develop at least not in my lifetime, and certainly not in my kids' lifetime, because they're living there too, and it's looking like not in the grandkids' lifetime. And so you're looking at 40, maybe 50 years before somebody will eventually want to become wealthy and will sell that property. But in the meantime, we're happy the way it is. So we're thinking now is a good time with this moratorium, where you're going to have a consultant come in, would be a good time to take us out of the TOD. With the thinking that someday down the line, 20, 30, 40 years, when someone wants to sell that ground and develop it, great. Get with the city and decide what's the best use for that property at that time. But in the meantime, take us out. In fact, if we could, we'd like to leave the city. We get nothing from the city. We get no sewer, no water. We don't even get police protection. I could tell you a story about that, but I've already told it, and I think you probably remember. We never wanted to be part of the city. The only reason we agreed to annex 13 years ago was we were talked into it by the late Mayor Hadfield and planner Rod Despain, because Jess Green wanted to develop his property in American Fork and not in Lehigh. And the only way that he could annex into American Fork was through us. And promises were made, so we reluctantly agreed. And we look at it now and say, I wish we'd have never agreed to that with what's going on. So with that in mind, I hope I'm conveying my passion and sincerity about this, because this isn't just property that we own. This is home. Cassie grew up there. She grew up there watching her grandparents crawl up and down row crops on their hands and knees, topping onions and thinning beets. Our kids have grown up there, and our grandkids are now growing up there. And like I say, this is home to them. It's not just a piece of property. So I would hope that you would consider our wishes and take us out of the TOD. Again, it can be put back in someday when somebody wants to sell it. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate the decorum, I really do. And you don't need to, you haven't yelled or screamed, but we get your message, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
One more on that. My name's Challen Allred Peterson, and this is Andrew Peterson, and Neil and Cassie are my parents. And I'm 5th generation that has lived on the farm, and he's 6th generation. So that just shows you how long we've been there, and I have no desire to sell ever. And I hope that we can instill that in the grandkids just to preserve it, because once it's gone, you know? So that's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
I'm Rob Reynolds, one of the owners of the Meadows, the development that is being built currently. And we're not opposed to the 90-day planning or moratorium. Our only concern associated with it is twofold. One of them is some of the gifting of ground that we've given, and also our phase 2 that was previously planned, that we do not want any additional proposed taking of additional ground because of other developments, proposed wanting of additional roads. Our feeling is obviously we've given a healthy chunk of ground if you look at what we've donated to the city, and we don't want any further disturbance to our phase 2, but we're not opposed at all in any way to the 3-month evaluation process, but I wanted that to be voiced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Grant Lefgren, and my comment is really one of question that maybe can be answered later as it relates to the considering enacting a 3-month temporary land use regulation. The question is whether or not that would prohibit or still allow for annexations to continue that lies within the current TOD zone.
You know what, I'm going to let legal tell us that. I know the answer to it, but he might add a few things that I wouldn't.
So the city will continue to accept applications for annexation. We just won't be able to review or approve any construction or subdivision approvals.
Okay, so as it relates to annexing within the TOD, the zoning, current zoning would be applied to that, or is that would be under consideration?
Well, the zoning will be, I don't think the zoning will be changing.
Okay.
I suppose the council could look at the TOD zoning, but I think that will remain unaltered.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
I'm a lot slower than I used to be. Some of that comes from stress. I just want to indicate to you that my property's on the outside of all of this. Some things have been implied here that did and didn't take place. Whatever happens, it needs clarification, but I want you to know that the school district has approached me for a school on my property. The church has approached me for a double stake center, and I already have in process an application for a multiple housing development on the east side of my property. I hope that will be allowed to continue rather than shut down. But we're just waiting to see what happens with the church and the school district, because there's going to be a lot of little kids down there that are going to need a school, and they're going to need it somewhere. And the piece of property that I have is one that is right in the way. I know that I will not get as much money from the school district or from the church as to a private person. That just seems to be the way things go. But that is not a bother. I would like to see some of these things go forward. We've been on that land, my family, longer than anybody down there. We've been there for a solid 100 years. And it is time that me and my family, who have no longer interest in farming, do something else with the ground. And we have people bugging us all the time about doing something with it, and I want to do something that's nice. And I'm hoping that we can proceed. At any rate, I know that this is not in line with some of the others that have spoken. I'm sorry about that, but circumstances don't allow me to ride a tractor anymore. It would be very difficult. I can't even get on one anymore. But at any rate, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak and to hear the opinions of those others that have spoken. It is important that we are heard and that things go forward in a manner that will benefit the community in the long run. I'm hoping so. Anyway, if there's anything I can do, letting me know. I think we're already in process. I hope that's the case. And that would start things out. But the west side of that property, like I've indicated, the church and the school district both have avid interest in a portion of what's left. And that is the major portion, actually. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Vea Supom, and I live in the east neighborhood of the TOD there. Just, I don't even know the address. I just have the county address, 6500 West, near there. And my comment is more of a question: is during this 90 days, what is going to happen, or what is it? Maybe I didn't listen well, or I just didn't hear it well. Was what are we doing with these 90 days? Well, I guess I'll pause there. And do we know what's being done during those 90 days?
I'll take a stab at that, and I'll ask anybody else of staff that wants to add upon or what I have to say. But essentially, we're looking at the form-based code, and we're not going to redo it. We're just looking at making alterations. The development process has kind of been a vetting process, and they've come through us, and in almost every case are asking for modifications in the zoning, setbacks. And it's caused us to reflect inward at our own form-based code. So we have a gentleman that we've hired to help us look at our code and dissect it a little bit and make it more palatable, even have more options available for development, aesthetically pleasing, things like that. And perhaps the main thing is the 200 South Corridor, is that we want to make sure that we get that correct and we have good traffic flow and that people can come in and out of the TOD in a very good manner. We've learned from other cities around us, and we don't want to repeat those same mistakes. And so traffic flow is definitely one of the major components.
Well, that makes sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when we bought our house about 2 years ago, if I had known that we would be in the middle of a TOD, even though it's the outskirts of it or the edge of it, we would not even have looked at the property. Just because I don't want my half-acre lot, 5,000 square foot home surrounded by, 0.08 acre homes with, it's just not where I would want to raise my kids, just the density. With that said, in reading through the station area plan, I think it was on page 29 or something, it talked about the east neighborhood, and that's what I kind of just, want to talk specifically about. It says, those homes should be, those properties should be considered, and that any, ordinance or whatever set of rules that you create for homes that are to be built around that should be considered. But then as I read what came out of it, the density was 4 to 8 units per acre, which is a lot more than the half or third acre specified in the original station area plan. So my concern has always been is things morph. Somebody paints a pretty picture, presents it, and just like, Ms. Allred spoke about, things were presented and promised, and then when things get codified, it changes to something totally different. Just, for instance, take open space. There's nowhere in the TOD that says a particular type of property has to have so much percentage of open space. If every property goes in and puts in the max amount of density allowed, or the land allows, I guess, whatever, is the lowest, these are disparate, at least from my mind, different developments, and there's no cohesiveness to the whole TOD. It's not an area anymore. It's just a bunch of different developments that people are trying to piece together. So hopefully that will be addressed, and that we can, write the glue pieces in so that we, each development has to be looked at the scope of the whole rather than individually, and that they meet certain criteria. But I would like to reiterate, if I can, that on the east neighborhood, there's that north-south corridor that's going to be put in. I think it's just to the east of what Grant's property is. We'd like to be taken out of that TOD because the land is not TOD density because of the wetlands and everything else. But maybe I'll just talk to you specifically afterwards or at a future date regarding that. But anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Matt.
Sir, just a couple of things on that. Your worries and your concerns echo many of us on here, as we've had different developers come in and different teams that have come in and suggested things. All of the TODs that they've worked with in the past had things indicative to those areas, and they don't marry exactly to this. Our goal with this is, as the mayor said, to be able to implement things in our code, and that would allow for a cohesion throughout that whole thing. And a central plan that we can all follow, developers, the city, et cetera, so that that's executed properly like it is intended, rather than having several disparate developments that don't have anything to do with another and cloud that up. So that's our purpose in doing this, is being able to create a plan that is specific for our area. Maybe parts will be borrowed from different places around, but our goal is to do it for our area, so it is our own and not just simply pieced from different developments around the state or around the country, for that matter.
I think that would be great, especially if we're involved.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amber Lampf. I represent the other half of the Allred family down at the west end of the road. And as at the east end, we are not interested in annexing in. Take us out of the TOD. If you want to do the TOD, you need to be more centralized towards the station. We're clear at the end where it is not significant. We're not going to be developing. I do applaud you for putting a hold so you guys can actually look at things as a whole. There's a lot happening between the Vineyard, 200 South, bike lanes, everything that wants to happen down there, not to mention the promises that have already been made to developers currently, and then the plans that are in place. I mean, I would even encourage you guys to cease any new building, period, during that 3-month period, because as it shows right now on the map, you're already taking out part of the apartment building that's just been built and people just moved in. I just saw lights on a few weeks ago. So I consider even if the city would consider doing that. But please keep in mind that the Lampf-Allred family is not interested in being part of the TOD. We're not interested in developing. We would like to stay a family farm. We would like to make it to our 100-year anniversary next year before we're actually torn apart. You guys have already removed agriculture protection from us, trying to get roads put through us. And it's just not appropriate. The city has really not treated us well for everything that we've done to try and work with you guys as far as building. So thank you for taking the 3 months to look at it, and hopefully you guys can get a better plan in place and maybe exclude us from that TOD.
You know what, could I just ask you real quick, as you make a statement like that and as public record, and to say that we've removed ag protection from you, would you say it's from your entire property?
No, it was from portions of the property that you guys expected to put roads.
For road property?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I just
Yes,
wanted to make that
but from
clear.
my understanding, UDOT will not survey for a road while it is in agriculture protection. So therefore, the city did not renew that part of the agriculture protection solely for the purpose that it then opens it for UDOT to do the survey. Had we the agriculture protection in place, UDOT doesn't even look at locations like that. They try and look around agriculture protection because they realize what a commodity it is to not only the city, but the whole state to continue that growing. So,
All right, thank you.
mhm.
Any others that would like to make public comment at this time? Hearing none, we will close the public comment period, and we will move right into regular session. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the regular session of the American Fork City Council meeting on this July 31st, 2018. We appreciate you being here. We have a full agenda, and we will follow the agenda as outlined. We'd like to excuse Councilman Shelton, who is away on a family vacation at this time. And so it's noted that he will not be here. We will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead, and then followed by Councilmember Taylor offering a prayer, in which I will conduct roll call. So if we'd all please stand.
Our most kind and righteous Father in heaven, as we bow our heads before Thee at the commencement of this council meeting, we are grateful and we recognize Thy very bounteous hand in our lives for the freedoms that we enjoy and for the opportunity that we have to meet together as people, as citizens and community members, as business people, to resolve and work through the important issues that are facing our city. As we do so, Heavenly Father, we would ask that Thou would guide us with decorum, with civility, and with wisdom as we do these things, that we might have a divine inspiration, that we would be able to act in the manner that would benefit our community and continue to make this a wonderful place to live and to do business. We pray that we might be mindful of all of the needs and be able to judge accordingly in the things that we do and make the decisions that would best benefit. We are also very mindful, Heavenly Father, of the great blessings of protection and safety and the services that our staff provides for us, for the freedoms that we enjoy in this country, because men and women would give of their lives to protect us. We pray that as we go forward, we might do so with dignity, that we might be mindful of people's feelings, that we might be compassionate, that we might be understanding on both sides, and that we will be able to conduct the business of the city in a manner that would please Thee. We give Thee thanks, Father, for all that we have and all that has been given to us, and ask now for Thy strength and Thy Spirit to be with us as we conduct the business now, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that prayer, Councilman Taylor. I'll now conduct the roll call. Councilmember Christiansen.
Here.
Councilmember Shelton is absent as noted. Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum and can conduct the business of the city. We will begin item number 2 with the 20-minute public comment period. If you have something that you would like to comment later in the agenda, if you just raise your hand, we want to listen to you, want to hear you. But if you have a general comment that you would like to address the mayor, the key staff, the council, please come forward at this time. State your name as you're talking to the microphone.
Hey, my name is Rob Steffen. I live about 3rd South, 3rd East, and I thought that my question would be better for this period rather than the previous public comment period. But I just wanted to know, and I wasn't able to find this information online, so I thought I'd just ask. Along with the traffic considerations of 2nd South, going through the Todd. Is there any kind of plan for the frontage road? Like if you're not going into the city at that overpass, I imagine the traffic's going to increase there at the frontage road as well. And I was just wondering what the plans were. This is my current route to work, so just wanted to know. But that's it.
You know what, Rob? There is a study being conducted right now by UDOT, and they're analyzing all the frontage roads along the entire Wasatch Front. Is there any, maybe Scott, but we can, if you want to just jot down your number.
Yeah.
Give me your phone number. We'll get back with you with a direct answer as to the study, what their plan is, implementation, and all that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Are there any others that would like to make public comment?
Hi, my name's Christina Klein. I'm a resident of American Fork. I live at about 520 North, 400 East. I just wanted, I know later on in the agenda you're going to be reviewing the surplus land ordinance. I just wanted to let you know I'm in favor of that. I think it would be wise to maybe help mitigate items on the city council's agenda by letting city staff maybe review that for the small little issues. Some of these surplus land or property could hopefully free up you guys, because I know you guys are busy. But just wanted to let you know I'm in favor of that, so I hope you vote in favor of that ordinance.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment period at this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and we will move on to the city administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few items. First of all, I would like to really give a shout out to the Chamber of Commerce for the efforts for Still Days and for the Still Days Committee and all the work that went into producing that great event. It's such it's something that builds our community to have an event like that, and it brings people together, and it helps us realize what we all have in common, and that is that we live in a great place, and American Fork is a great city. I'd like to just tell the staff how much I appreciate them too for donating countless hours and volunteering to help staff those events, and again, just to the Chamber of Commerce especially for all their hard work. I know we'll talk about that again a little bit more, but I also want to mention that next Tuesday, August 7th at 6:30 p.m. here in Old City Hall, we will be having an open house regarding 200 South and the design considerations for that roadway. And it's an exploratory meeting so that we can talk about the different needs, the different challenges of that roadway. We would invite the public to come and give input on that. So that will be Tuesday, August 7th at 6:30 p.m. here in this building. Also on August 6th at 6 p.m., the Fitness Center will be having a member appreciation event. And so they will be serving some food. I understand it's some hot dogs and different things. And so we would like everyone that is participating at the Fitness Center to come and join the staff there so that we can tell you thank you for supporting the Fitness Center. It's 25 years old, the Fitness Center. Time flies, but it's a great facility, and we would just want to invite everyone to come see it, tour it. On August 7th at 6 p.m., we will also be having a night out against crime, and the police department will be in Robinson Park, and we will be talking about and giving examples of what our police department does to combat crime, and we invite everyone to come out to that as well. I believe last year there was a dunk tank, and I think several of the officers got wet. I don't know if we're having the dunk tank this year, but we'll have something that's going to be fun. And that is all I have. Oh, I wanted to say one more thing. The pickleball courts up at Art Dye Park are heavily used. And just to let everyone know, we do have functioning lights there. They're on a timer. They turn on at 6 p.m. They turn off at 10 p.m. I know some people want to play in the dark, but we do have neighbors up there that want to get a little rest at night. Even one of our staff members lives close there, and they see people playing constantly. But please come up to Art Dye Park and enjoy that facility, enjoy those pickleball courts. It's a fantastic thing to do with your family. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, you got to take a number at the pickleball courts. We've learned that. So move on to council reports. I'm going to start with you, Councilman Member Taylor.
Okay, thank you. If you please know, I have nothing planned for September 6th. The local thing to throw another one on there. I want to commend Chamber of Commerce specifically. You know, we have Ryan and Josh here, and appreciate all the time and effort that went in. We took a gamble to some degree when we made this change this year, and I think it's paid great dividends. I know it was difficult. I love that it got pushed to Monday night, though. I was able to eat from the food trucks both Saturday night and Monday night, so that was nice. But it just kind of prolonged it for the longest time. Still Days has always been a big deal for me growing up here, and I just look forward to the fireworks down there in the Rotary Park baseball park. I don't know how many of you remember them being down there, but it was just a great time. And I commend all of the staff for what a great job they did. And and made that city celebration what it was. I really appreciate all of that. Mayor, that is, aside from the pickleball courts are a jam. I told Derek as we went up there and tried several times to get a court. It was easier when there were no lights, but we could have easily built double the amount of courts that we had and have them be filled. But love that new amenity from those park funds, and love the signage up that demonstrates that around there. And just I've had comments about a couple of those things: the restroom in Martin Park and also in Evergreen. It's a great thing. So we appreciate the citizens for voting that through and helping us provide some amenities that make things a bit nicer here. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you for that report, Councilman Taylor. Councilman Member Carroll.
So I had the opportunity to be involved with Still Days as the council member liaison for the Still Days Committee, and it was a great privilege and learning experience, and I would say that it cannot be overstated how much work the Chamber of Commerce put in. They, more than even we expected, took the brunt of the work. So we really want to thank them for that. And along with that, I have invited them here to give us a short report of some things with Still Days, if you'll allow that.
Absolutely. And he's still sunburned.
For those of you that heard me speak at the, was it the sing-off? I don't like being in front of the microphone, but we just wanted to say thank you for the support we felt from the city, from the staff. There was an awful lot of time and energy put in, and we just want to say thank you. We feel like it went off really, really well. Not perfect by any stretch, but there were some things, but I think we've learned some things, and some of the additional things that we added, events, locations, Coke trailers at different events, brought in some revenue streams that we otherwise haven't had. But we'll go through more details once we get all the final billing done. Obviously, we're not totally done with that, but we were doing an accounting tonight. I think we're comfortable saying we sold, do we say 11,000? Probably 11,000 more tickets this year to the carnival than we did years past. So that's a significant boost, obviously, to the bottom line. Helps cover those costs. I guess that's basically it. But we just want to say thank you. Hope everybody enjoyed it, despite having lightning and hurricane winds and such. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, very much.
Mayor, I do have one small other item. As part of my city assignments, council assignments, is economic development, and I wanted to take just a minute to make sure that the rest of the council knew that American Fork has been granted an opportunity zone, a federal opportunity zone, as part of well, what it is it's a one census tract in our city that if developers or investors come in and do any work there, they have the opportunity to have significant tax advantages there. So it's a real boon for our city. And I had a friend who's a developer say, American Fork City, how did they get that? The rest are, not the other cities around here got it. And it was because of our mayor. Our mayor took the opportunity to jump on and request from our governor to be submitted for that. And I think it could be a really good thing. And it's something that's so new that the details of it are not all the way fleshed out. But if you want more information on that, we can talk about it. But I wanted to make sure that you were aware of it, that that's something that's on the radar.
Thanks for that report. Councilmember Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. As far as my specific assignments, I really don't have anything to report. There's a guy on the radio that everybody just says ditto, and so they don't have to repeat everything all the time. So I'm going to say ditto to the comments that have been made, all of them concerning Still Days. But I'm going to add a couple more things to it that I think specifically pertain to Still Days. A lot of people, I think of Still Days as the parade and the fireworks. But there are so many other activities that go on and so many people that are involved in those. And from everything I've heard, all of those activities came off very, very well. as old-fashioned as a soapbox derby. And a drag up and down Main Street without the dragging. We understand we can't do that anymore, and there are reasons for that. But that is fun, just to go down there and watch people drive up and down the street in some vehicles, cars, trucks, and other things that they just enjoy and that they find pleasure in, and that people find pleasure in seeing those. We went to the car show, my wife and I, 350-something vehicles. What a collection! If you're into vehicles at all and enjoy them, there were some beautiful vehicles down there, and I'm sure many of them were coveted. Even though we're not supposed to covet things, they were. Other activities, an art show, wonderful art show, quilt show, all of the other activities that make Steel Days what it is. And there are a couple of groups I think that need to be pointed out specifically. We've said staff, and that includes everybody. But there are some that are really right out there on the front line. The police and the fire and all of the safety people are there and doing the things that need to be done. And again, controlling traffic and all of that was handled very, very, very professionally. And last but not least, the citizens of the community went and participated in it and enjoyed it. I realize there were a lot of people that come down from Salt Lake County. As I visited with some of my friends in blue, they know some of those people from Salt Lake County for various reasons, and those people were there. But there were a lot of people that come from surrounding areas to participate in the carnival and the parade and all the other activities because they know it's going to be a quality product. And sorry, Chamber, but you put the bar just a little bit high for the first time out. You know, usually you try and set it a little low so it's a little better to improve. But you guys kind of messed that up, and you put a pretty high bar, so it's your own fault. But thanks a million to everybody.
Thank you. Councilmember Christiansen.
Ditto. Actually, I would just add one thing to that. You know, I haven't gone to as many Steel Days activities this year as I have in the past, various reasons, scheduling and things, but the things that I went to, you could just feel the energy that came from the residents and visitors who were there, and I couldn't echo more about the spirit that was there. And it's so nice to have people be able to celebrate and come together in a basically safe area. And thanks again to all those who made it that way.
Thanks for that report. For the mayor's report, I think I've been thanking everybody for the past 3 weeks, but I'm going to thank them again. It's just because I think it's important to do so. To the chamber, to Josh, to Ryan, to Christina, I'm going to thank your family because I think you missed them for about a good week and a half. Christina brought her kids. We saw them there, her daughters. But it was a tremendous sacrifice of time. To throw a party for 30,000 people that spanned over the course of 3 weeks, basically 3 consecutive weeks, because we rained out the last one and had to really go with Plan B right at the very end on the big show and hold our talent there and get a commitment from the stage and let the residents know. That was a tremendous undertaking. And I've kind of been in those trenches before, and I understand them a little bit. And so thank you to you guys and to your families for your sacrifice. And I hope that you've gotten to know them again because there was time. I did notice the small things. I noticed who was there after the big show or after the movie in the park, probably till 2 o'clock. Getting things set up for Saturday, and then I noticed they were preparing for the parade at 6 a.m. I don't know where they slept, maybe on a park bench. And so I just want you to know I noticed those things. And so thank you to Councilmember Carroll And for all that are involved, I saw our city staff in their personal vehicles, pulling up cones with their own trailers. To make it all worth it is you just walk around and you see the smiles. The smiles on the faces. The carnival, you know, I think there's the same rides that I rode when I was a kid. I told my grandkids that. But you know what? They bring the same smiles. And so that's just a key element, and I just really appreciate all that goes into it and all the staff. So thank you from the mayor. Another item that felt like it was really one of those moments where you could say, I'm proud to live in American Fork and I'm proud to live in America. And that is this last Saturday night, we welcomed home a soldier that had been deployed into the Middle East. And it was just put out on Facebook, and boy, did our citizens catch a hold of that. And the city, we kind of ushered him in with some emergency vehicles, and along Main Street, people were holding flags. People had signs, didn't know this gentleman, and took him right home. When he got home, there was 200 flags in his neighborhood, and it was really special. And so I just want to thank all those, and it's just good to live in a community that will recognize those things. And I was glad to just be able to just kind of be a witness of it and watch it all happen. So people were specifically coming to that just so they could show their kids and pay tribute to a soldier. So that was neat. So that concludes the mayor's report. We will now move on to the common consent agenda, consisting of approval of the July 10th, 2018 City Council minutes and approval of the July 17th, 2018 work session minutes. Any modifications that you've received, Terlyn? Okay. And the corrections were made? Okay. I'll entertain a motion if there's, unless there's other corrections needed.
So moved, Mayor.
Have a motion by Councilmember Taylor.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Carroll. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton is absent. Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, I am going to make a small change on the agenda, and I'm going to move the ratification of city payments for later on, and I'll tell you why when we get there. So we'll move on to item number 2, review and action on an appointment of Deanna Spence to the Beautification Committee. I hope that you all saw in your packet her impressive resume. If we could have her stand. And I think are you a master gardener? Would you call yourself?
Master Gardener Certificate.
Okay. So if you have any of those weeds you just don't quite know about, we know where to call. So, but anyway, I would entertain a motion to have her be a part of the Beautification Committee.
Mayor, I'd move to approve the appointment of Dina Spence to the Beautification Committee for a term of 3 years.
Thank you for that motion, Councilmember Taylor. Have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Carroll. Any discussion on this motion?
I can personally vouch for Dina, and I can just tell by her yard the kind of gardener she is, but she's a wonderful individual as well. Lives in my neighborhood, so I'm very pleased to be able to have her appointed to this committee. So.
Great.
I just wanted to say that I talked with her very briefly while I was at the garden tour about the beautification committee, and I wanted to say thank you for being willing to serve, because sometimes it's a sacrifice.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelton is absent. Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, item number 3, review and action on an agreement extension with George K. Baum for financial advisor services for a period of 3 years. Those who know this firm, they have navigated the city through some pretty good treacherous waters at times, but they've been very sound advisors to us, and when to refinance and how, and to capture the best interest rate, and have had the interest of the city along. And so it's important that we renew this so that we can keep having them advise us. So, any questions on this?
Mayor, I move to approve the municipal advisory agreement extension with George K. Long and Company for a period of 3 years.
Have a motion by Councilmember Taylor,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Christiansen. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilman Shelton is absent. Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor. Thank you. Motion passes. Item number 4 is a review and action on adoption of an ordinance establishing a 3-month temporary land use regulation prohibiting further development within the transit-oriented development, or TOD, overlay. Appreciate all the public comment that took place. I just want to know, where does the council want to go with this? Is there additional information that we need from staff? Or do you feel prepared to make a decision at this time?
I don't want to lock up all the motions here, but, yeah, I'm glad to yield. You don't stick. But I think this is in line. I think this is prudent of us. I think it's in the best interest. I don't think we're pushing anything off. I feel like this is something that definitely needs to be done for the items that were mentioned early on, and in the public hearing. I think it's a prudent move that we made, and so I'm 100% behind this.
I'll second it.
I don't think I did. I think I laid off.
I think that's kind of implied. Yeah, you better make a real motion.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. You want to scroll that up, Ben? I move to adopt the ordinance establishing a 3-month temporary land use regulation prohibiting further development within the TOD overlay.
We have a motion by Councilmember Taylor and seconded by Councilmember Barnes. Any discussion on this motion?
I just think it's a good thing to do. This area, the development is going to be with us for many, many years, and we want it to be quality, and it's worth it to plan correctly.
It will be there well past the lifetime of some of us. I just wonder if there are any citizens' comments that need to be made at this time. Is that appropriate, or?
If it's something different than what you've already addressed us with, Mayor?
This question, it won't inhibit anything that's already in process.
If it's been entitled through the process, then it's entitled. And so I would say you would need to check with staff on your project. Okay?
Thank you.
Councilman Carroll. All right. I have a motion and a second, and I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Item number 5 is a review and action on an approval of an encroachment agreement with Walnut Court Plat B. This was before us a couple weeks ago, if I remember right. Maybe, Scott, if you could fill us in with any changes from the last time we met.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there aren't any changes with this, but what this item, the discussion that took place with the council, I forget how many weeks ago it was on this item, was that their site plan would be approved, but with the condition that there be this encroachment agreement for the existing building that's already in the easement. It just nips into it a little bit on the southwest corner of the building, and so this is the agreement. We've reviewed it as staff, legal's reviewed it. We recommend approval, and if you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Mayor, I move to approve the signing of the encroachment agreement with Mr. Todd Bybee for the Walnut Court Plat B plat.
Thank you for that motion, Councilmember Carroll. Seconded by Councilmember Barnes. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen?
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item number 6 is a review and action on the Dixie Froughton addition consisting of 0.822 acres at approximately 870 East 30 North, including the ordinance of annexation agreement, and placing of the property in the R1 9000 residential zone. Any questions for staff on this? Pretty routine.
No, I move to approve the Dixie Froughton addition consisting of 0.822 acres at approximately 870 East 30 North, including the ordinance of annexation agreement, and placement of the property in the R1 9000 residential zone.
Thank you for that motion, Councilmember Carroll. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Taylor. Any further discussion?
The OCD is going to kick in again. And I apologize. On the stuff that's on the screen and other places, it's 0.821. On the agenda, it's 0.822, and it's at approximately 870 East 30 North. So I think we ought to just say it's approximately 9 or 10 or 11 acres or whatever. No, just kidding. I think we ought to put the word approximate in there because we're getting different numbers. I don't know that it really matters, but we've got it at an approximate address, and we're trying to say it's 0.001 difference in foot. So I don't know if it really matters.
I'll ask legal. Legal, does that matter in your mind?
Well, the legal description will relate more specifically to the address. As far as the acreage, so you're saying there's 100th difference?
Yeah, it's not very big, but
1,000th.
It should be 8, or 0.822.
So it should be 8.
I just had the wrong number, didn't get it changed on the RCA.
All right, according to the surveyor's certificate, we'll go with 0.8222.
Which is what Councilman Carroll made the motion for. That's how you.
If not, I will amend that motion to 0.822.
Okay. All right, we have any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen?
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 7 is a review and action on a resolution declaring the city's intent to use tax-exempt financing for the purchase of 6 police vehicles and associated equipment. And the reason that I have delayed the payment for bills until after this one is that there's some things implied that are related to this, and I just thought it was maybe getting the cart before the horse, and I thought it'd be better to wait. So, any questions for our staff regarding using the tax exempt status? Thank you for coming up, Kyle. I was going to ask you to come up, so.
Mayor, if I may, I think I may have kind of started some of the discussion on this. There was some confusion. I did get a chance to visit with a couple of people this afternoon, and they enlightened me and straightened me out. But I think it would be good for public record if it was just explained, basically what you guys, Kyle, explained to me.
Sure.
As to what this really means and the shell game that's being played.
It's not a shell game, but well, backing up a little bit, in the budget that was approved for the new fiscal year and fiscal year 2019, the purchase of these 6 police vehicles was planned to be done with a capital lease. In order to issue a capital lease after we have made the purchases, the IRS requires us to pass a resolution just declaring our intent to do that. This declaration doesn't bind the council to a capital lease. It doesn't set the terms of the capital lease. It's just saying we're planning on purchasing these vehicles and equipment, and we're going to get reimbursed through the proceeds of a capital lease, since to the bank or financing company that actually issues it to us, that's tax exempt for them. They won't have to pay tax on it. the interest proceeds they receive from that. So it was in the budget. I think that's one of the confusion was if we were actually paying cash for these vehicles. And right now in the budget, we are planning on issuing a capital lease that would come after the vehicles have been received and we've paid for them. And then also there's a significant amount of upfitting that goes into these police vehicles. They need, in-car dash cams, computers. It's a whole list of items. And then at that point, I'll go out and secure bids and then bring it to the council for approval.
Mayor, I would move to adopt a resolution declaring the city's intent to use tax-exempt finance for the purchase of 6 police vehicles and associated equipment.
Thank you for that motion, Councilmember Taylor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Carroll. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen?
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
All right, I'm going to kind of come back now to action item number 1, and that is ratification of city payments from July 3rd, 2018 to July 24th, 2018, and approval of purchase requests over $25,000.
Mayor, I move to approve the city bills and payments from July 3rd, 2018 to July 24th, 2018, and to approve all purchase requests over $25,000.
Thank you for that motion, Councilmember
Second.
Carroll.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Christiansen. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen?
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 8 is review and action on the approval of a master's utility agreement with UDOT. George is going to hang up in the back room unless we really need him to come forward and explain this. It's something routine. We've done it several times. Is there any clarifications? And we can get George up here.
I think we're good, Mayor. I move to approve this master utility agreement with the Utah Department of Transportation.
Thanks for that motion, Councilmember Taylor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Carroll. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Christiansen?
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
All right. Item number 9, review and action on an approval of an ordinance amending the city code governing the disposal of surplus property. This is something we had in a work session. If there are any questions that we have, I'm sure that Tim would be able to answer those. Clarifications, any misspelling, anything like that, you know.
For the record, I thought it would be good to clarify again, who makes the determination? You told us before, who makes the determination on what the value of something is?
The city administrator.
The city administrator and the mayor make that final decision.
Yes.
And as I read it, it looks like there's really not a question as to what's personal property and what's real property. They're pretty clearly defined. Is that a correct assumption?
Correct. Personal property would include any city equipment, office furniture, you name it. Real property would only include land. This is intended to accomplish really 2 objectives. One is when there's an insignificant remnant of property, like abutting a right-of-way, we really don't want to have to go through a lot of paperwork and before the council just to be able to dispose of that. If it's, like 5 feet by 2 inches or something like that. So we can clean up some of those issues without coming before the council. But the council would approve any disposal of real property above $10,000. And then for personal property, occasionally a department will have items donated or there'll be a bike that is just abandoned, and somehow a city department has that bike cluttering a corner of some office. And we don't really see a utility to come before the council to just dispose of low-value items. We would just allow the department heads through the city administrator to dispose of those items.
Who makes the decision on the value of real property? Is there some kind of an appraisal process that we go through, an evaluation, or just curious?
The city administrator would determine the value. An appraisal would not be necessary for a lot of these little remnants that I've mentioned, because they really do have a de minimis value. But if an appraisal was necessary, we would certainly order one.
If there were a question and
yes.
somebody wanted to request one, they could, correct?
Correct.
Well, I move to adopt the ordinance amending the city code governing the disposal of surplus property.
I have a motion by Council Member Carroll. Seconded by Council Member Taylor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Council Member Christiansen.
Aye.
Council Member Barnes.
Aye.
Council Member Carroll. Aye. Council Member Taylor.
Aye.
All right, item number 10 is consideration and action to enter into a closed session to discuss the character or professional competency of an individual, to discuss pending or reasonable imminent litigation, and to discuss the purchase of, lease, or sale of real property. And for tonight, all three of those items are to be considered. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session?
So moved, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Taylor. Have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Christiansen. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor,
Okay.
I think that does need to be a roll call vote.
Okay, we'll
Sorry.
call for a roll call vote. Let me see if it's on one of my papers. It is. Councilmember Christiansen.
Aye.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, we will now adjourn to downstairs, and we would ask our legal, our city administrator, Scott, if you could come with us to begin with. And we will close our regular session downstairs and go back into regular session, and we will close it downstairs. So, thank you. Boy, it's just the crickets are here all of a sudden.